Hopefully doing well. And we'll go ahead and start that recording. So just so everyone knows that there is an actual person behind this, hello. My name is Frida. I will be your facilitator today. Hopefully we get to have a lot of fun. I have Jonathan with me as well. So we are going to be your host for today's event. It's all hands on. So hopefully you received the notification earlier about how to log into the environment and have been able to log in. I'll go ahead and turn off my camera just for better reception so that you guys can hear me. We don't have any issues going forward, but I just wanted to show you that there are real people behind this. We're not robots. All right, so let's get started with a few poll questions. Today's topic is all about cloud. It's about Microsoft Teams. It's about collaboration. It's about understanding the products that are out there to help you really get into the swing of things with business. So the first thing I kind of want to know is where are you guys joining us from? So this is a cool little format. It's a little poll system. You can input your answer into the little box. Hopefully everybody sees it. So I will tell you guys. And if you don't see it or if you're having any issues in there, please type them into the chat. We will be able to support you in the chat. So I'm seeing a couple of submissions already. And this is kind of just a cool feature of Microsoft Teams. So if you did not know about this, this is actually one of the features where it allows you to do this little cloud of different names of where everybody's joining from. So we have Toronto, Oldsmar, Oklahoma, Miami, New York. It's just amazing. An amazing group of diverse people in here. So super excited to get started with you guys today. Hopefully we will learn something new. Hopefully I can teach you something to take back and use today. So the other question I kind of want to know is who in here is actually using Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Office? So I'm going to throw out another poll that'll pop up in your chat as well. But just want to kind of get an idea if you're using it or not. If you're not using that, that's perfectly fine. If you are, then let's teach you some cool tricks to get you really, really used to using it and take the best advantage of it. Just want to get an idea of what okay. So most of you guys are using Teams or Office. That is fantastic. So I will not go based on assumptions. So if there's anything in here that you don't understand, if we're going too quickly, please go ahead and type it into the chat. Jonathan is in there in the chat with you guys, making sure that everybody's good. We will go ahead and get started with just making sure first that everybody is logged in. So I will just do a quick run through. Hopefully everybody's already here. So, but basically you received a link that brings you to this main page right here. As you can see, we don't have any of the faces loaded, but that's okay. So if you're already logged into a persona, it'll show in use. If that persona is being used. If it's not being used, it'll show a launch persona button. What you're going to do is you're going to type in your name right here, as I have typed in my name multiple times. And you're going to go ahead and launch that persona that you would want to select. That is the very simple of the instructions that you need to do there. If you would like, we can go ahead and type those into the chat so that you are aware of what it is that you need to do in order to get into those. But once you have logged into the persona area, I would like you to open up that virtual machine and go into the OneNote. Now, OneNote is that little purple icon you're going to see at the bottom of your machine, or if you're in the web browser, the bottom of your web browser. So your machine should look like this. And then you're going to see this little purple icon with an N on it. And inside that purple icon is this little OneNote. And there's little tabs. So it says Microsoft Teams 100 Plus. There's a welcome area where you know our names, so you know who you're interacting with. There's a tab for personas. Now type in your name next to the persona that you have selected, just so I know who you are. I'd rather address you by name than call you a persona. That's not your name. It's kind of impersonal. And then let me know if you've ever been in one of these customer immersion experiences before. And what is your topic of interest? What do you want to get out of this today? Is it about Teams? Is it about applications? Is it about scheduling a meeting correctly? There's so many different things that I know that you might want to learn about today. So like I said, again, you want to go to your OneNote. It's right here, this N. and then you're going to go next to the name of the persona that you've selected and type in, see, there we go. Laura is already in here. So just make sure that you don't delete the name of the persona that's here on the left. Just type in your name right where you have it, Laura. Laura, what persona were you? Or if you're already in there, could you go ahead and write in the persona on the persona icon there on the persona left side? But yes, thank you, Laura. You are doing awesome. And as we're doing this, as everybody's logging in and getting familiar, if you're noticing something that I love about Teams is everybody's names and icons are showing up here, right? From the personas you're using. So before we keep going, is anybody lost? Is anybody having any issues? Please throw it into the chat. I want to make sure everybody gets some experience. I will continue to share my screen throughout the entire thing, so you don't have to worry if you get lost. You can always just check back to my screen. Cool. Perfect. Tommy, Laura, I do not want to butcher your name. Adina, do not have the screen showing. Teresa, what screen are you not seeing? Are you not seeing my screen or are you not seeing your login screen? The purple box. Okay, so in your web browser that you open up with your persona, do you see either Teams or this little N in there? Oh, how to access the area I'm speaking about. Okay, so let's take it back a step and let us go back to this. So the link that you received as an email, you should have received a link with information on how to log into the tenant. Let me go ahead and just drop those details into the chat. 1 second. There we go. Okay, so those are the instructions on where we need to access. And as people are logging in, you're putting your name in the box up here and you're hitting launch persona, whichever one is still blue. If it's grayed out, it's already being used. And then once you do that, it'll open up a screen for you with the OneNote and the Microsoft Teams. All right. Let me check back with everybody else that's logging in here and filling out their information. So we still only have 3 people checked in. There we go. Perfect. All right, so I'll give it a few more minutes before everybody, since I'm seeing only 3 people are registering in and we still have people coming in. All right. There are any questions if you have in the chat. Once you've opened up that browser, or if you pick the virtual machine like I have here, you should see this purple OneNote open. If not, you have a Microsoft Teams icon down here that should be open, and you can also find this OneNote right there. I've added it in multiple places so that everybody has access to it. All right. Remember, please use the chat if you have any questions, throw those in there. We will try to support you as best we can here. Oh, somebody changed the name here. There we go. So you would want to put your name in this little column here, your name. You don't have to put your title if you don't want to, but then have you been in a customer immersion experience? And then Laura, Tommy, if you want to throw in the chat, what are you guys interested in learning about today? What about Teams is your interest? What is the target topic that we need to cover for you guys today? There we go. Sherry's logging in. Perfect. Again, please don't hesitate if you have questions, guys. We are here to answer questions. This experience is for you. Okay, perfect. So we've only had one person in here that has experienced a customer immersion experience. So just to give you a little background, okay, I'm seeing some questions. Okay, Teresa. Okay, perfect. Got it. So let me give you guys a little background on what this is and what it's supposed to do. So the best way for me to explain customer immersion experiences, which is something common hopefully to everybody here, is the same as buying a car. You know, shopping online is nice, but personally, when I buy a car, I want to sit in the car, I want to test it out, I want to drive it, I want to see what the reaction time, all that stuff. So when we talk about Microsoft 365 or when we talk about Microsoft Teams, what better way than to experience the product, whether it be before you go ahead and immerse yourself with it in your business, or if you already have the product and learn how to use it more efficiently. That's what a customer immersion experience is. So we're getting some hands-on, we're going to go through a couple of different scenarios, and then from there, we're going to see if there's any questions that might be lingering based on the interaction with the environment. Maybe there's a business case that you have questions about how you might be able to apply it in a customer immersion experience. So we'll cover that. If there are any questions that we can't get to or questions that we won't actually cover in this discussion, we have an area for parking lot. So questions that we may not get to, questions out of the scope of the conversation. And then as well, in this OneNote, we do have contact information. If you have any questions after the event, you can definitely reach out and get some additional information or additional details for yourself. All right, so I'm only seeing 4 people logged in. Teresa, I know that you're just going to listen. I will continue to share my screen so you'll be able to watch what I'm doing and as well as interact in the chat. Like I said, I can definitely see the chat. I got 3 screens going here, and then also Jonathan will keep me updated if there's something that I miss. All right, so this is my last call for anybody that has any questions or is having any issues logging in. Again, let me go through this one more time for you guys. You should have received a link, which has been popped into the chat. Go ahead and pop it in again, where you get access to your personas, your environment. So you're going to have to type in your name in the box in order to go ahead and hit launch persona. It looks like we got a couple more people logged in. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I personally, once you've logged in and you're in there, you will come to a screen that looks like this, whether it be the OneNote. You might also see this Windows 11 background because we're using a Windows 11 machine. If not, you might see Teams. So either one is okay. But we're going to go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, throw them into the chat. And then towards the end, I do want to open it up for any questions that you might have, verbal questions, where I can answer those a little bit better. All right, so we're going to start with Microsoft Teams today. Again, for those of you who are new, if you are new, completely new to Microsoft Teams is a collaboration platform. It's available for you to not only work with each other, you can make phone calls, you can schedule meetings, you can work together to build out documents and a bunch of different things. The first place I want to start is where I think is one of the most important areas of Microsoft Teams in order for you to have the best experience, and that's going to be up top in your settings. So the first thing is first, up here in your settings, you have the availability to change your status, whether it be available, do not disturb, away, all that information. You can also set a message. In my case right now, because I'm engaging with you, I actually have a notification on my personal Teams that says, do not disturb me from this time block. I am not available. It makes it a lot easier for people not to ping you. But the first thing I want to go into, and hopefully everybody is already familiar with Microsoft Teams, and we can kind of go into these specific areas. The first area I want to have a little bit of a conversation about is the extended integration of Teams with your Microsoft Outlook. So over the holidays, a lot of us probably took some vacation time and you scheduled an out of office. your ability to schedule out of office is also available inside of Microsoft Teams. There's some really cool integrations where even if it does show that you're online because you might have it on your cell phone or you left your laptop on when you went on vacation, it'll still show your out of office message that you have scheduled in Outlook, which makes it really convenient for your colleagues not to send you messages while you're, out on vacation, or at least they know that you're out. The second area that I want to kind of go into is your notification area. So a lot of times people have some issues with Teams where they're not getting notifications, or they may not be getting the best experience in getting all the information that they need inside of Teams. The area you want to focus on to make sure that all your notifications are being received correctly is that notification setting in Teams. As you can see here, I have it as a custom notification. You can change all these things. You can also eliminate the sound or preview messages. I've actually eliminated preview messages just in case I'm in a meeting and a preview message pops up in the middle of a meeting and it might be, confidential, so you can eliminate that risk. But yes, so you have the ability to track people, if there's somebody like your boss that you want to make sure when they come online, you can actually activate all those things here. I think this is one of the coolest and newest features of Teams that have made it a lot more convenient when you're working remote. In terms of devices, I think everybody's going to love this one, and that's the noise suppression. So how many times do we have, somebody opening the door, the mailman knocking on your door, maybe a delivery, maybe somebody cutting the grass like they're doing in my apartment right now? This noise suppression is going to make those awkward situations of having noise background behind you a lot easier for you to deal with. So you can either put it on auto or you can put it on high. Now, if you do put it on high, that means little things like music in the background won't be heard either. And then the last area I want to cover in here is caption and transcripts. So caption and transcripts is going to take on what I call a larger than life way of making sure your meetings are a little bit more efficient. So caption and transcripts will actually transcribe your entire meeting. Let's say like a courtroom, right? You have a transcriber in a courtroom. That's exactly what this meeting feature will do for you. It makes it really nice because it bubbles the person's name, like who is it that was speaking and said what, and it allows you to kind of go back and make sure that everything was what exactly everyone said. If there were any action items that you might have not written down in your notes, that information will actually be called out in your transcriptions. It makes it so much easier for you to be able to recollect that information and make sure that you had an effective meeting, as well as anybody who wasn't available during that meeting or was not able to attend the meeting will be able to read the transcription, as well as capture, have some closed captionings within the meeting. It also, of course, allows for that element of diversity in the workplace as well. So we are going to go up top to this little search bar, and hopefully everybody already knows these tips and tricks. But your / is going to allow you to do a couple of different things in here. As you can see, I can change my activities, I can change my statuses. I can even look up organizational details and pop those out in a separate window. So there's a bunch of different items that I can take care of with just simple keyboard commands. That makes it a lot easier to navigate Teams if you're a keyboard person. And if you are looking for specific keyboard commands, just an FYI, you can find those inside of the settings inside of Microsoft Teams up here. Cool. Perfect. So if you notice right here, keyboard shortcuts, you'll be able to get all those keyboard shortcuts in terms of navigating Microsoft Teams. The other symbol that I want us to remember is the @ symbol. So the @ symbol will actually tie back to your organization. So how many times are we looking for somebody? Maybe they changed their last name because they got married. They changed the way their first name is spelled. You can actually use the @ symbol to navigate through that directory, as well as a couple of other applications that might be available inside the Microsoft Teams within your organization. So those are just the first 2 tips and tricks that we want to cover. We're going to move over to this panel over here on the left-hand side, and we're going to go through a little bit in detail into each one of these areas and kind of boil over some of the things that might be relevant or important for you to know. So over here in the activity pane, I want you to notice that there's a feed that is going to be based on the notifications we set earlier in our personal profile. And there's also going to be a My Activity area. So in the feed, it'll let you know if somebody tagged you individually with an @ symbol, if something in a channel was notified for everybody at general that was told, hey, I need everybody to do this, I need everybody to do that, or any kind of announcements that might have happened, as well as being added to a specific team. My feed or my activity allows you to kind of see anything that you have done. If you sent any messages, if you liked any posts. Obviously here I haven't done anything today. We're just starting out the day, so there won't be a lot of interaction here. But this is where you would go to say, like if somebody tagged you in a post and you can't remember if you replied or not, you would be able to go here to find the post and go to my activity, find out if you actually replied to them. It's a great way to keep track of your day. In the chats, if you notice, we have our first chat up here with Adele, Linda, and Nestor. So it's a 3-person chat. I want you to notice something with Microsoft Teams. The layout will be the same in many aspects of Microsoft Teams interactions here. So you're always going to have an area for a message and attaching documents. And then, of course, you're going to have your chat area. You can change the name of the chat. Like if this is, like a specific project, you can change it there. You have an area for files. Where are these files going to come and play? These files are going to come and play if you guys are sending each other files. So how many times have you sent messages to somebody, an attachment, and you can't remember where the file is? You might go and search your computer. If you send it in Teams, you can just go to files and have a whole history of all the information that you've shared with each other. You can make individual phone calls or video calls to these 3 people that are in the chat. You can also go ahead and share your screen right here, and as well as add additional participants to the engagement. If you're doing a one-on-one chat, the same thing applies. You can just have your regular meeting. If you notice in this particular one, because it's one-on-one, we have our organization tab, which basically just tells me who are the people that are reporting under Patty. So in organizations where somebody might be hired on as a new hire, you're able to clearly display this information, which makes it a lot more convenient for somebody that's new to know who their coworkers are, who their direct reports are, and then as well as who they report up to. So just keeping that general understanding, your chat's going to keep a very similar feel inside of Teams and channels. So let's move over to Teams and channels. And I actually want to ask a question to the public. So get ready to type into the chat if you have the ability to in our regular chat. What do you actually label as a team and what do you label as a channel? How do you distribute that in your organization if you're using Teams right now? So I will give you, if you're not doing that, I'll give you some time to respond. If you're not doing that, let me give you an idea of what a Teams is and what a channel actually is supposed to be. So the team you would consider a part of the organization that needs to be working together, right? So in this particular case, let's take the example of a organization. So let's call this company, the company that everybody in this works for is Contoso. So Contoso would have a general team for everybody in the organization. You can use that general team and incorporate everybody in the organization and have multiple channels where there might be information specific for those inside the organization. So an idea of a channel would be the HR channel, where any of the new HR updates, any new plans have been posted. Another area might be calendar for vacation time or paid holidays, which might either live under the same HR channel, but it could also live in its own channel if there's any specific holidays or days off that the company attaches to. Additionally to that, you might have like a sales division or a marketing division where they announce different sales incentives for everybody in the company, and then they announce different marketing promotions that they might have for anyone in the company. Additionally to that, if you think about teams, you could also take that marketing team and make it into a separate team and then have different projects going inside of there for marketing only outside the organization. So those are the different areas. But does anybody else use Teams in a different way or wants to share in the chat any ways that they might actually use Microsoft Teams to better assist their organization? Go ahead and type those in. And as those are coming in, I'll go ahead and read them out and take a look at what you guys are doing with Microsoft Teams. I always like to hear different opinions because it's definitely very very customizable and very open for people to expand what they're doing within Microsoft Teams. So we're going to go into our collaboration piece. I'm not seeing anybody in the chat. Definitely remember it is interactive. Roy, did you unmute? Did I stop you?
Yeah, I was going to say
go for it.
something that a lot of people don't realize in a lot of the organizations that we support at Wheelhouse IT leverage SharePoint on a daily basis. And a lot of people don't realize that Teams is kind of the pretty version of SharePoint. So it makes it easy for people to collaborate, understand where things are in just a more seamless manner. So just try to put it into like a realistic purpose of where things are, and if somebody's using SharePoint today but not necessarily Teams, it might just give them a better option.
Yeah, definitely. So with that example of you talking about SharePoint, I just went into my Teams and opened it up in SharePoint. So if you're familiar with that SharePoint skeleton, definitely here you go. There's your SharePoint skeleton. Not as pretty as Teams. Jonathan, yeah, using the raise the hand feature.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna to kind of add on to Rory's comment is that basically Teams is essentially if you took OneNote, SharePoint, and Skype, and they had a baby, and this is that baby.
Yeah, beautifully said. Especially with products that we're familiar with that may no longer exist, or we don't see them as common as always. So going into here, our collaboration or channel area, I just want to highlight that every single team that you create will have a general channel. That is just standard right now. It is a great place to kind of introduce everybody. And my fellow people that are actually in here in this CIE tenant and kind of navigating along with me, I'm going to actually have some stuff for you now. Yay. So we'll go ahead and actually operate here in Teams. And I'm going to use the @general feature. And so the @general feature is just going to call everybody that is in this team to come to this post that I have made. So it's a very simple instruction. This is a space for comments. They can be used for updates if you want. But yeah, just want somebody to confirm, thumbs up, send a gift, have some interaction. This makes it really easy for communicating within an organization as well. How many times do we have maybe quick announcements that need to be made? Like, hey, everybody, our clock-in system is down right now, so please make sure you're using this particular format, right? You could go ahead and announce that inside of Teams, use the @general hashtag or the @general feature to be able to call attention to everybody that's inside the team instead of individually tagging each person like you would maybe in an email. You can also consider it, if you're using like a grouping policy, you can also consider it the equivalent of that. So if you have like a specific group that comes together, then you would be able to consider it that as an option as well for the tagging. I don't see any of my interaction inside my CIE environment here. Where'd my personas go? Anyway, so this is one of the features in terms of being able to just post a regular commentary. There are other features within this particular way of sending out messages. You can do it as a conversation. You can post it so that anybody can reply. You can also post it to multiple channels, which makes it really convenient. If you have an announcement that is something that you want to be posted in every single channel so that nobody misses out on it, and it's just right there, big and bold, you can do that in multiple channels. You can also change this to be an actual announcement, and that actually changes the entire look of it, makes it a headline with a sub-headline, as well as some information below as far as the context of that announcement. And like I said, you can make this interactive and fun. If your organization allows, you do have the ability to use GIFs and make it nice and interactive, as well as using your emojis to, spice it up and make it a little funny. So diving into the collaboration aspect again, I want to go into files up here. And I want you to notice, similar to SharePoint, there's a lot of features up here. Other than being able to open it in SharePoint, you have the ability to kind of tie in your cloud storage if you needed to. You can download files. So if there's any files in here that you needed to download, you could download those directly to your desktop, as well as being able to upload information. But you can also create new documents from inside of Microsoft Teams. So we could actually create a Microsoft documentation in here and name it CIE. Just name it CIE. And we can create this Word document. And as everybody gets access to this Word document within Teams, hopefully everyone will, yes, hopefully everyone will join me in this document. And as people join the document, everybody that's in the actual CIE tenant, you'll start seeing little circles pop up with people's initials. And as people's initials pop up, everybody can continue to collaborate. This is actually a great way if you think about projects that might require multiple people working on them or collaborating with them. This is a great way to use that collaboration versus having to email it out and then somebody save original copies and go back and forth with that. So this is definitely a different way of interacting with the Microsoft 365 product line. And if you don't like Word in this format, you're not used to it, you can actually open this in a desktop option up here and make it a lot more convenient. Any questions? I know there's always somebody that asks a very important question when it comes to these kind of collaboration documents, but I want to see if there's anybody in here that might have that question. If not, I will ask it. No one. Okay, so here's the question that I pose to you. What happens if we have a document going like this and somebody comes in and decides to erase everything? How do you join to participate in the document? Sherry, are you logged into your customer immersion experience persona? Did you get into that login screen with the persona? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So inside of Microsoft Teams, let me go back. So I'm going to use my back arrows this time. So inside of this Microsoft Teams, you should be able to see the customer immersion experience. Only that team, because that's the only one I'm actually showing for everyone, just so it's not confusing. And you should be able to go to your general channel, go into files, and there should be right here this document under 18, which seems like it's not loading. So let me get a refresher here. Let me refresh my Teams and come back in. But it should be inside of Microsoft Teams, Sherry. Because we have our OneNote in here. And so you should see this one right here, which is giving me a little bit of an issue. Which I'm going to do. If you are having issues with Teams not loading for you, I do have a web tab open with the office.com user on most of your virtual machines. And you can actually open up Teams in a web browser format, and you should be able to see it as well once that loads up. And you should be able to see it here as well. But I'm going to go back to my desktop option here. All right. Were you able to see it, at least the area, Sherry, of where it was? I just want to make sure that it's showing up for everybody, or if we're having any issues with the machines, to go in and correct it for you. So it should show up in files. Yeah, it's giving me the same error message right now. Not sure. Hold on one second. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Might have gotten deleted. Okay, the same as mine. Okay, so we seem to be having some kind of issue going on there. All right, but you do see the 18 and the 15? Thank you, Sherry, for letting me know that everybody's having the same issue. Appreciate you. Okay. So since we're having that issue with that one right there, I do want to see if this tab is working. Perfect. So other than files shared in the way that you might do in a SharePoint site, there's the ability to take those files and make them a tab like we have with this OneNote that we're all sharing. And the tab just makes it easier so you don't have to open the document. Oh, it did open for you. Okay, perfect. That's interesting. We seem to be having some hiccups today with this, so I apologize that it's not showing up, but I'm glad that you were able to open it up, and I'm going to make the assumption that that is Tommy because you're logged in as Nestor Wilkins, so you kind of confused me for a second. I was like, wait, am I in the right chat? Perfect. So that would be one way of being able to share the document. The other way would be creating a tab. And the way I created a tab is I just use the plus sign up here to create a tab that lives inside that team. This makes it easy for you to access documents. So if you think about documents that might be things that you access frequently, let's say any information that might be regarding like a template that you might have to use on a phone call with somebody, or a template for a document that needs to be created, or a guideline that you need quick and easy access to, that's what I would personally use a tab for. Or you can also use it for different applications within Microsoft Teams, like the ones that you're seeing on my screen right now. So if you press that plus sign, it'll give you access to all these different applications that you can use inside of Microsoft Teams, which of course brings me to that moment of saying Microsoft Teams will integrate with other applications that you may use on a day-to-day basis. So you're able to actually use a big chunk of those inside of Microsoft Teams. A common one that I see or I get a lot of questions about is sometimes like being able to have like a PDF document, or being able to house maybe potentially like a Adobe Acrobat Reader, being able to have that, or being able to sign inside of Teams. So you can actually use these products. It just really depends on what you're looking to use. But if you're in that CIE tenant, go ahead and scroll through and take a look at the variety of products that are supported by Microsoft inside of Teams that can make your life easier potentially. So just so you can have a look at what's available. So there are some applications we are going to cover that we're going to come back and do that. We're going to add those tabs inside of Microsoft Teams. But first, we're going to go over to our calendar because I want to have a discussion around meetings and scheduling meetings and your capabilities within Microsoft Teams. I think meetings are probably a huge chunk of where we spend our time. I think all of us have tried to figure out how we can master the best meeting experience possible. And there's actually some new features that have been added to Teams that makes that a little bit easier. But before I go forward with that, I just want to pause for a second and see if there's any questions so far, if there's anybody that wanted to type them into the chat, if you had any questions or any comments in regards to Teams and how you use it. I know that there was some questions or some interest on Power Apps. Don't think we could definitely have a discussion around Power Apps and where that kind of integration starts if we do have a second towards the end. But I definitely wanted to see if there were any other questions to be able to type in here and let me know. If not, we will begin with our calendar overview. So I want you to notice that your calendar is going to be syncing up with your Outlook. So one of the main things with that calendar being synced up to Outlook is if your meeting was created outside of Microsoft Teams, you will still see it inside of Microsoft Teams. I'll go ahead and click on this one right here. As you can see, it says join. So if you click through your calendar, see if there's any invites that you might have that don't actually have a join. They might be specific to another third party, or they might just be like a reminder. Most of mine are going to be a join. But I think it's this one. Yeah, so in this particular case, you have a meetup, a join, an offsite. There might be some instructions or directions depending on if that is an actual Teams meeting or an offsite meeting. But there is a feature for Meet Now. So there are times when you might need to meet with somebody really quickly, like, hey, can we jump on a call real quick? Let me not put it on our calendar. Let's just meet now. You can use this feature right here. Click Meet Now. You can change the name of it, start your meeting. If you're in the CIE tenant, go ahead and play around. If you've never done this before, go ahead and click through. It will not activate your camera or your audio. Those two things are turned off so you don't get weird random feedback. That won't actually happen to you. But definitely, you know, your abilities to being able to customize your meeting, as well as a couple of different meeting settings. So if you're new to Teams, or if you've already had Teams before, you know that you can schedule regular meetings, but there are two settings in here, which are webinars and live events. For today's meeting, we're only going to be covering just scheduling a regular meeting. We're not going to talk about webinars or live events, but if you're in the chat and you have questions about webinars or live events, definitely throw those in there. I can cover that information if that's something that you would like to hear a little bit about. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule a meeting just so you guys can get an idea of best practices for meetings. So I've selected my time slot. I'm going to say this is a CIE meeting. And the best practice in this particular case would be to pick your attendees, who you want to actually attend this meeting. I find it, if it's a meeting for a specific channel or a specific group of people, it's easy to add the channel in here. So I can actually go ahead and pick our customer immersion experience channel here and go to our general and throw it into our general channel. What does this mean? It means that the meeting will be available for everybody in that channel to see and to access. So I'll go ahead and do it just so everybody has an idea of what it looks like. As you can see, I'm not using my scheduling assistant. I have it as request a response and allow forwarding. So the allowing forwarding is actually a pretty key thing. How many times have you had a meeting that you just wanted to have a one-on-one with a customer, or you didn't want anybody to forward the information? You can prevent that right here by eliminating that allow forwarding. So I'll go ahead and schedule this meeting at this time. It seems like everything else is correct. Obviously, I might need some information here. Just something to have some content. And I'll go ahead and send this off. This meeting is actually going to go not only to your Outlook, so this will go to your Outlook. This will also go to your Microsoft Teams. So let's go back to Teams. Let's go to our general. There's our meeting. So a good option for this kind of meeting, if you have recurring sales meetings, that might be a good option to throw it into the channel so that everybody has access to it and nobody loses it on their calendar, because that's a very common thing that I've seen personally in our organization where, where's the meeting? I didn't get an invite. But if it's in the channel, then everybody has access to it. There are times where, of course, sending a meeting in the channel is not convenient. If you're having a one-on-one with a customer, something that's private, you definitely don't want to do that. So going back to our meeting, just for a reference really quickly, I want to go to our CIE mod meeting here. And this is where we begin to really expand our meeting capabilities. So within this meeting, you have your Teams meeting, your conferencing, all that information. But really the true gems of a really good meeting, depending on what you're doing, are going to be up here. So we have your scheduling assistant, whoever it is that's going to be attending. In this particular case, like I said, we're doing a channel. You have an attendance tab. So this actually tells you who attended the meeting, who joined, how long they stayed, all that information just for you to get a general idea. You have the option for breakout rooms, which is actually a pretty new feature inside the pre-scheduling the meetings. And you're probably asking, what are breakout rooms? So breakout rooms are basically allows you to create separate rooms for multiple different discussion sessions. So maybe you're having a sales meeting and you want to break out your sales team and how your region is divided, right? So you have your north, your south, your east, your west. You can actually go in here and create your rooms. So maybe you need 3 rooms. You want to add 3 rooms to this. These 3 rooms will have set participants. Now, you can go in here and edit this information. So you can change the name of it. Maybe you don't want it to be room. You want it to be south. And you can actually follow along and do this. If you create a meeting yourself, you can go go back and do this with me, you can play around with these features. That is what the CIE is for. I can also go back into my settings for this meeting that are specific to how people join and who can participate if you can't have it unmuted. Within those settings, you have settings for lobby, which is basically, does a person get stuck in a lobby before they join the meeting, before they join that breakout room, or do they just join the room automatically? That's a personal preference. Do you want to announce when the caller joins and leaves? That's that little beep button that every time somebody joins, you get it. It gets announced. Who can present? So being able to share your screen or share a PowerPoint, allowing mics, allowing cameras, and then the record automatically, which basically means the moment that somebody joins that room, the recording immediately starts, as well as being able to allow the meeting chat and being able to allow reactions. So these are just some of the settings that you might incorporate. You might incorporate into that specific Teams meeting, or that might be important to you for that breakout room. So once you've saved that, you can go back to your breakout room and you're good to go. Now, if we had people that were already inside the meeting, specific attendees, I could go ahead and assign them inside those breakout rooms. So I would be able to put, 3 people in here, 4 people in here, 5 people in here, whatever it is that I was looking to divide, and I can continue to add additional rooms should I need to. And this is a feature. These are features that are available automatically when you schedule that team meeting. Now, because I use the channel, there's going to be some restrictions on some of the applications I have used or I've created. So for everybody that's inside the tenant, go ahead and pick a different meeting, just any of the meetings that are inside of Teams, and open that up. Now, I want you to notice that if it's a meeting that wasn't scheduled, that's scheduled inside a channel, again, you're going to have that limitation of not having additional add-ons. And the reason we care about the additional add-ons is, does everybody remember when they logged in, they had a little cloud puzzle that I asked you where you logging in from? That is a feature that is inside of Microsoft Teams in terms of using third-party applications. So let me go ahead and schedule a meeting with a person. So I'm going to actually say test meeting, and I'm going to pick on you. I'll pick on the Nestor persona, and I will pick on Patty. I'm just going to add a few people in here. There we go. And I'm not going to schedule this in a channel. This is just going to be a regular meeting. I'll go ahead and send that out to you guys. Perfect. And now I want to go in and customize my meeting before the meeting. Notice in this one, we're getting our scheduling assistant, meeting notes, because this is with individual people, no channel. So your meeting notes, as we talked about before, we have transcriptions. Meeting notes are going to take that place of you writing on a piece of paper of what the meeting was about. These meeting notes are for everyone. So everybody in the meeting can come in here and make their own contribution of notes. This is a great way to capture any take-home items that anybody that might need to attach. So any follow-up, any information like that, you would be able to take that in your meeting notes. And the meeting notes actually stay in the meeting. So even after you finish your meeting and you have that meeting chat, you're able to access them. You have a whiteboard capability. And for those of you who might be doing hybrid work where you have a meeting room and you have a whiteboard in there, these features will actually tie in together. So just as we talk about whiteboarding, there's reactions, there's shapes, there's text, there's even templates for the whiteboarding. So if you're using a device that has a touchscreen, you would be able to incorporate this as well. You still have your attendance items, you still have your breakout rooms, but we've added a plus sign, which to me is gold. So this is where your meetings really get a little bit more intricate, a little bit better. You can take a regular meeting and add Q&A to it. So maybe there's a tab in there where people can ask a question, you can answer it live or answer it written. You can add this as part of your teams. You can use Microsoft Forms like you saw me use today to do the polls. And it's very easy. You can just add that. And then when you go into your meeting the next time, it'll already be there. You can immediately start adding polls the moment that you're in the meeting, or even before you go to the meeting. I could go ahead and create some polls right now. As you can see, it gives you a couple of poll suggestions. The one I used today was the word cloud poll, but you also have the multiple choice quiz. You also have just regular polls. So there's a lot of features that this particular application, which is actually called Forms, allows you to do inside of meetings. It provides some versatility. And then the results, you can actually download those from Excel and get all that information. So one thing to note with these polls, you can actually share the results automatically after voting, which is what I've done in our regular meeting. But you can also keep your responses anonymous. So maybe you're asking people inside your meeting, you're asking them about, are you happy? Are you happy today? Or are you happy with the information we just delivered? And you feel that the team may not respond to you, you can just make it anonymous. And the feature for allowing others to co-author is, think about our meeting right now. I actually have Jonathan with me in the chat. I could actually allow this poll to be co-authored, which means instead of me launching the poll, he can actually launch the poll because he sees it in his Teams meeting as well. So this is just one of the features of Forms. We're actually going to dive into Forms a little bit later, and everything and the capabilities that Forms can actually do. But like I said, that plus sign will allow you to add different applications depending on if they are compatible with Microsoft Teams. You do have a huge variety of them. So there's a lot of things that you can add here, as well as documents if you needed to add any documents that you wanted people to have access to. So that's meetings in terms of scheduling a good meeting. So they're scheduling the meeting with your channel. They're scheduling the meeting with just people and being able to add additional features, additional capabilities. Any questions on that? I know I kind of went all over the place and added a bunch of different things. Sheets. I'm gonna actually have to tag that one. And let me actually thumbs up that one. And Jonathan, I know this might be a parking lot question, but thank you. Great minds think alike. Perfect. So we'll take a look at that one for you, Paul, and see if that one's available inside of Teams. I know that there are applications that I can check here, but I'm not sure if it's going to give me access to everything. So I will have Jonathan do that little bit of research. The next area, calls. If you're using Microsoft Teams and you're using it within your organization, Teams offers the ability for you to call people within your organization, teams to teams, not phone numbers, but you do have that capability to call them and see missed calls and have a voicemail and everything like that. So it's really simple, really easy for you to be able to do that. I can actually, hopefully, hold on. There we go. So I can actually select the person on here and then just press call, and that'll call them. And like I said, this is going to be teams to teams. Moving into files, and I think this is kind of important because it does help to make sure that you know how to navigate your teams. So because Teams is very similar to SharePoint, where you can have your documents in here, you can share documents, you can co-author, it kind of serves as a storage at times as well. It can be a little difficult to remember exactly where your documents might have been put. So if there's any documents that you recently used, if you go into files and you show recent, it'll actually give you the list of documents that you recently opened. If you look at your location, it'll actually tell you where they are. So it'll tell you what team and in what channel they're living in. If you go to the Microsoft Teams tab, if there's any documents inside the teams that you are a part of, it'll show you all those documents. Again, it'll tell you some information on when it was modified, as far as by who, and then the date as well. And then it will tell you the location of where those documents live. So if you're ever freaking out, you can't figure out where that document is, but you know you accessed it a few days ago, your files is a great place to go. It's a reliable source to figure out exactly where that document is living. And then last but not least, you of course have downloads. So there's times where you might download a file from Teams. If you've downloaded it and you've already deleted it off or it's on your computer, but you don't know exactly where, you can also go here for some support on where that document might be. And of course, you have your ability to bring in your OneDrive files, right? So everybody has a OneDrive. You might share some personal files, your own files in there. So you can, okay, thank you, Jonathan. So the OneDrive files that are your personal files under your own personal OneDrive, you can also have access to them inside of Teams and move those around, upload those or sync those up. So that is also another capability within using that. You can also add different storages if you had anything else where you're putting your files. And then the last area we've kind of talked about, which is applications, apps right here. And depending on your organization or how you do things, you may have access to all of these applications, or you may have a limited scope of the applications. One thing to remember is not all of these applications are free. Some of them do require a separate subscription, but they are available to make your life easier and to enhance your work capabilities. The apps that I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about today that I think were sort of important are forms. This one right here that we already talked a little bit about the polling capabilities that it has. Tasks by Planner and To Do, which I think is a great tool for anybody who handles multiple projects. Those are the two applications that I think are pretty important. We've already used OneNote today, so everybody knows a little bit about how that works. But yeah, these are the two apps, and I think we're going to start with Task by Planner and To Do. So if you're in the CAE tenant, go down to your applications on the left-hand side, all the way down, close to the help bar, and go ahead and look for Tasks by Planner and To Do. In this particular case, for Task by Planner and To Do, I'm going to use it individually. You can use this as a team feature. And what do I mean by that? You have a team of people, they're all working on the same project, everybody needs to be split up. You can put this inside that channel and have everybody work on this particular app. In this case, I actually want to use it, as you can see here, if I toggle down, I can add it to a team. I just want to open it. So like I said, this is very similar to having a to-do list like you might traditionally do on like a piece of paper. But this keeps the project a little bit more tangible and trackable. So you can actually create a list. You can create a list for yourself of things that you need to do or specific tasks. If you notice, it'll automatically give your task a place to create them. So like we talked about before, do I need to create these in our customer immersion experience channel? Do I need to create them in a different channel? Or are these just my personal tasks? In this particular case, it's just going to be my particular task. And I'm going to name it just my name, Frida. So now I can actually start creating different tasks. In this particular way, this would be individually for me, but I can also have things that are assigned to me that somebody else has created a task for me. My persona is a mod persona, so I'm actually the administrator, but I'll go in here and say, clear out team. Teams for, clear out teams. We're just going to keep it simple, right? So that's the task. We kind of want some more detail in this. There's not really a lot of information. I kind of need some more information. So if we go ahead, oops, I cleared it out instead of that. So if we go ahead and double click on that task, we can actually add a due date to it. We can give it a priority. Is it important or is it medium? We can type a description of the information that needs to take place with this clear out teams. And I can also add an additional checklist. So again, a good example that I like to use in terms of business for a customer I worked with is they had a cleaning company. And with this cleaning company, each personal rep had to go to these specific cleaning locations, and there were specific items that needed to be taken care of. So think about CEO's office has a giant coffee stain, it needs to be cleaned. So we would go in here. In this particular case, our task is clear out teams. So let's use that example of the business. So there's this coffee stain in the CEO office. So CEO office coffee stain. So now this is a checklist of things that this person has to do when they go into this place to clean it. And you can continue to add those checklists, and you can also add a due date. By adding the due date, it will actually give it a little bit more priority, a little bit more emphasis. And you can also copy the particular task. So if it's something that's repetitive that you know that multiple people will have to do, you can continue to create that exact same task, that exact same idea or concept. And like I said, you have, if it's just a task, it'll show it here as a simple task. It'll show it as important if it's something that's important. If you've given it a due date, then you'll have that information as well. In terms of being completed, you can schedule it by completed. As you can see here, this one's already completed. And you can also delete that progress or see that progress. So this is in an individual mode in terms of using Task and Planner by To-Do. We talked about being able to do this with a team. I can put this into our CIE. Put it into our general channel and create that. So as a manager of a team, as a project manager, you can go ahead and get the jump start. So this is going to go into everybody at general. So everybody that's part of that team now has the ability to see all the different tasks that are available for them. I can now assign those tasks to them. As you can see, I get a list of people that are available to have these things assigned to them because they're part of my team. And it makes it a lot easier for you as the manager to keep track of that information. So if you've assigned something, you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to do that from this point. It's just finding somebody that I know has a tenant. Something as simple as check teams. It's in the to-do bucket, but you can create different buckets for this. If you wanted to assign a different kind of name to it. You can also view this as a board, which makes it really nice, and you have your different buckets of things. You can view it as a chart of how many things have been completed. Like I said, very much like a project management tool. And then lastly, as a schedule. So when is this due? It'll actually show you when that person's project is due, and you can get a better idea of where these things are going. So this is just one of the apps that's available inside of Microsoft Teams that is a Microsoft product. It is free inside that, licensing scope, so it is available for you. Any questions on Task by Planner and To Do? And if you see that it has a weird name, it's because they took the two different products and realized that they could just merge them together. It would make it a lot easier. Any questions on that particular application? Just checking for time. No questions. Okay. Well, the next application we want to talk about is forms. And again, I'm going to go back to my applications, everyone. Go to forms and you can hit open. You can also, again, add it to a team, add it to a chat. You can add it to a meeting. Like I said, forms is one of those tools that has multiple uses, and you can expand its capabilities depending on what you need it for. So I'm just going to open the form. And actually, hold on one second. Let's put this form inside our Teams instead. That way everybody can interact with it. And it's this one. And we're going to set it up. So I'm going to add this form. I'm going to call it form inside our customer immersion team at the top tab right up here. Now, a lot of you might use things like SurveyMonkey or different applications to collect data or information from your customers. Forms is also a way that you can use forms to do the same thing. It allows for a little bit more customization, and you can also work on this as a team, as a group of people trying to create that. So let's say that this is going to be specific for sales calls. Now we can title it as sales calls, right? And then we have a description, whatever it might be, follow up. And then we can, in this particular case, we can add additional questions. Now you can do multiple choice as well as text. You can do different ratings. So let me go back. You can do different ratings. You can do a date, and then as well as different sections. So if we think about a sales call, maybe it's the first question might be, who's the customer? Maybe it's not a multiple choice thing. It's a fill in the blank. So it's a text. So customer name, right? Now you can make this a long answer. So if the customer's name is, a little bit extended, then you have the ability to do that. You can make these questions required so that people can't skip over them. So, in certain surveys, you might be able to, you can't skip over the questions. You have to actually go through them. That's what this particular capability allows. And now you can continue to add your questions. Where did they answer? I'm going to ask this question. Did they answer? And I'll have a yes. Automatically, the AI knows, oh, this is a yes or no question. So yes or no, right? But what I want to do here is if the answer is no, I want it to go to a different question, which in this case is called branching. So now we've taken a simple form that is just a yes or no to a yes or no. If the answer is no, then take them to this question. Now we've extended our capabilities for gathering information, for being able to get a little bit more accurate data from the people that we're talking to. I also want to go up here and notice that there's 2 other people in here with me. As you can see, there's 2 little bubble names up here. It tells you who's in here editing with me. They can actually go in and add their own questions, and I can continue to work on my one question. So I can go in here and say add branching. So as it says, did they answer? The answer was no. So if the answer was no, then just go to the end of the form. That's it. I want you to finish your form at that point. And then if the answer is yes, then go to the next question. And that's how you build the branching. So now I would be able to go back, and now you have a little branch up here that says there's some branching going on. And you can continue to add your questions and layer that form to really be immersive or be able to gather a little bit more information than you anticipated. In order for you to spice it up, you do have themes. So as you can see, you have some options here that are available for you to pick. You can also add your own company template. So if you have a template already with like a logo and some information, some backdrop, maybe you have specific colors, you can actually go ahead and add that customized theme here. I'll just for fun add that theme there for you guys so you can see that it changes a little bit. You also have an area for responses. So not only are you collecting the data, but it gives you an average time of how they've completed it. You can open this up into Excel and really digest the data and put it into something else that helps you analyze a little bit more. You can also go in here and into your settings and really make this form selective. So only people within your organization can respond to this. Maybe it's an internal thing. You don't want them to send it out to customers. Or maybe you want everyone to respond. Maybe it's I want anybody who gets this form to respond. You can also have the option for responses. So shuffling your questions, customize a thank you note. So when they submit the form, they get a personalized thank you saying, thank you for submitting your form. We'll get back to you in 10 to 15 business days, whatever it might be. Lots of customizations here with that response time. For those of you who are asking about Power Apps, this wouldn't tie in directly to Power Apps. You could create you could create a Power App with the form embedded into it, but it will tie into Power Automate that allows you to automate the response. So let's say somebody fills this out, you immediately get an email that triggers another process inside your organization. So that is something that you would be able to tie in with forms. And then the last piece here is the share element. If you wanted to share this with multiple people so that they can add their own questions and their own branching, you have the ability to get the link for preview and editing and send that out, as well as duplicate this kind of template. If somebody liked the template that you use in the branching, they can duplicate the same thing and change the information. You can also shorten the URL because it's a pretty long URL. And then you have options for like QR codes or embedding it into something or sending it out as an email, as well as just getting a simple link. So those are just some of the features inside of forms that you're able to utilize. For preview, if you want to see what it looks like, this is what the form looks like on a computer. If you look at it from a mobile phone, this is what it would look like for you as the consumer. You can test this out by saying, let's say MK is the name of the company. And did they answer? I'm going to go ahead and say no and submit that answer. And that's all it says is thank you for submitting the response. But now I can go back to my responses and see that one person responded. That's the latest response. Percentage-wise, 100% have said no. So again, just great data and analytics collector for you to be able to, gather some information from your organization. All right. So at this point, we have covered all the things that were planned. Is it possible to open it up for allowing the participants to unmute Nick or Rory so that they can ask any questions, or if there's anything that we wanted to go into that I did not touch on? I know that a lot of people weren't able to get in. So I want to make sure that we answer those questions. And then also, if somebody wants to go into Power Automate, I can show you the particular area. Not sure if that's a possibility. Oh, awesome. Yes. Perfect. Thank you, Rory, for throwing that link in there. Yes, if you have any questions, if you want some more additional training, there you go. The link has been posted in the chat. But if anybody has any questions, or if there's something I did not cover, I know that there's a lot of information out there. Please throw that in the chat. And maybe we might be able to get some people unmuted so they can ask the question if they would like to come off of mute and do that. Actually, if you have any questions and you see the raise your hand, go ahead and raise your hand and see if we can unmute you to ask the question. No questions.
I just allowed mics for the attendees, so if anybody wants to try to unmute and couldn't, they can now.
Beautiful. Thank you. I can't remember who it was that asked about Power Apps. What's it? Let me scroll up. Thomas. I don't know if Thomas is still here. No, it doesn't seem like he is. All right. Well, for those of you who are curious about that, is there any other topic before I just go off of someone else's ask? No? Okay. Phoebe, raise your hand. You're muted. You just need to hit the unmute button. It should be right next to your microphone. At the top, there's a little camera icon. There's a little microphone icon. Just press the microphone icon. It should look like, give me 1 second. Sorry, guys, you're all going to see your names really quickly. It's this little icon right here. Should look like that up in the corner. Should be able to unmute with that. Still can't hear you. But yeah, that little icon right there would unmute you. You can also type it into the chat if you can, if you're not able to unmute. Okay, bring back the screen share. I think the only thing we did not cover today with Teams is Teams being able to offer you templates for anything that you are creating, depending on what kind of organization you are, because we already had a team that was created. But just for those of you who are curious, I know this was something that for a lot of people they were waiting for. These are the different templates that allow you to kind of create a Teams. So if you're in an industry and you've never, you think that Teams may not fit that industry, or you won't be able to work with Teams to be able to offer that kind of support or assistance for your team to be able to interact. These are all the different kinds of templates that you can create. And depending on what the industry is, it'll create channels specific to that, and recommend applications that are already available for you to utilize inside those templates and teams. Okay. No more questions?
This is the quietest group we've had.
I know. I'm like, my goodness. All right. So it makes I'm scared to throw out the last poll. But the last thing I would have to say about Teams and about understanding it, this is just the general Teams 100. Like I said, there are Power Automate pieces that we could, or Power Automate pieces that we can talk about.
Rita,
And for those of you who aren't,
can you just define what Power Automate is?
yes, I was just about to.
Sorry.
So Power Automate, like the word kind of says, is being able to automate a process. So like a lineup of making a car, being able to create a process that flows very easily. So the best way for me to actually help you understand it is sort of kind of go in and show you what I mean by that, just to give you examples. At least that's the way I understood it best when I first saw it. I was like, what is this? So what I mean by Power Automate is you have something that happens that causes a chain reaction. So these are some of the examples of the templates. So something as simple as you get a message in Teams, you get an email notification that you got a message in Teams that you need to respond to, just as a quick reminder. It might be something as simple as an approval process. So the approval process I always bring up is time off, right? If you're in an organization that your employees have to request time off, they usually just send you an email requesting time off, or they do it through their, the system that you might request on payroll to do the time off. You can actually create an automated process of approval where they send you a Teams message with their submission, the date, why they're requesting it, and then all you have to do is hit approve and it's done. That's what Power Automate does. And I think, Phoebe, you got unmuted. Let me see.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. My question is, when you send out a Teams meeting invitation,
Yes.
is there a way to attach a document to it?
Yes, there is. So second here. So inside of Teams itself,
Yes.
there's an ability to send a link right in here. But if you schedule the meeting inside your Outlook, your email address, it would work as just a regular meeting. So if I come in here to schedule a meeting for Teams, let me make sure it has it set in here. Hold on, sorry. I have it set up differently in here. So I'm going to go to my calendar. I'm going to do a new event, which in this case is going to be Teams. So in this particular event, you schedule your time, right? Oh gosh, 3 to 4 a.m. But I have the ability to go in here and attach that document right here, right? From your computer, from your, and this is going to be a Teams meeting. So all I have to do is toggle Teams meeting. So you can attach that document.
But that's creating the invite in Outlook.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You cannot attach something if you're creating the meeting directly in Teams.
Not directly in Teams, no.
Okay,
You would
it has
be able
be
to
through
go,
Outlook.
so you would have to do it after the fact. So like in this meeting not that one. In this meeting right here that I created with just individual people, if I go back to the meeting, I can go to my plus sign and add and upload a document or upload a file or these applications right here. So as you can see, like I have a OneNote, I could upload those things or attach them or files here, but it's after you've already sent out the meeting invite. They would have to go back into Teams to see it. If you want them to see it as they get that invite, do it in Outlook first.
Okay. My Outlook and my Teams don't connect.
That's an interesting issue. I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Yes.
So I would definitely reach out to our team here with Wheelhouse IT and see what's going on with that. If you're currently with us, if you're not, then we can definitely help you fix that, bring you over. So yeah, that they should be connecting. As you could see, when I went back to my email, all the same things. You're seeing exactly the same meetings in here as you're seeing in Teams. So yeah, they should be connected. They should be working together. That's the whole point of it.
I don't have Windows 11. I have 365. Microsoft
Yes,
365.
So 365 would work. It should work. That should be a collaborative effort. Because you're using a cloud product, they should be synced up to work together. It might be a factor of turning a switch on for them to communicate. It might not be something that's activated, but definitely let me throw the contact information in the chat. Fine. There we go. I have, oh, come on, mouse. There we go. Let me throw the contact information in the chat. Oops, I missed the I. There we go. There we go. So that's the contact information for the team here. We need some assistance with that. But thank you for coming off of mute and asking that question. That's actually a really important question.
Okay.
Yeah. Did anybody else have any questions? And also, just because you were using the raise hand feature, I'm going to highlight that that is actually a new feature inside of Teams. If multiple people raise their hand, you actually have the ability to go down and see who was the first person that raised their hand and go from there. So that allows it to be a lot easier when you're using Microsoft Teams. Oh, that too. That too. That too could be an issue. Thank you, Jonathan. Always on top of it. Okay. Okay. But I do know we were talking about Power Automate. Any questions about that automation? Rory, was there anything you wanted to add that I might have missed on Automate in terms of explaining it?
No, I think that was just a good summary, which I think some people might have been confused about what it was.
Yeah.
Like we leverage it to just kind of create simple workflows between like Microsoft List, To Do. It just helps us streamline processes that were manual. But yeah, Automate could be a whole new world.
It really can.
That's a whole training in itself.
Yes, it is. The moment I discovered Automate, I realized I didn't have to manually do things. I could automate my life. If only it worked outside of Teams and Microsoft. Ugh.
So Frida, I can kind of take over for a second because I know that
Yeah,
we're
sure.
wrapping the end. It didn't seem like there were a lot of questions. Shockingly, I'm surprised.
Right?
With that, we want to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to continue these trainings throughout the year. We hope that you continue to join us. If you're looking for on-demand training, Wheelhouse IT leverages an on-demand portal, which gives you over 5,000 short to-the-point videos, or anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes long, about anything and everything inside the Microsoft ecosystem. Even as the Microsoft ecosystem evolves, so does the portal itself. If you're already a client with us, you should already have access to the training. If not, we can work with you. If you are not a client of ours, because I know there's a good mix on this call, we're happy to work with you and show you how we can give you the training completely for free. So feel free to reach out to the contact information that Frida put into the chat earlier. And then we look forward to seeing you in another training. Hopefully you guys got something to kind of streamline your process and leverage teams to collaborate internally. So with that, I'll thank Frida. I'll thank Jonathan. Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
I see you put a poll up.
Yep, one last poll. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rory, for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
And I am going to come off mute here for a second just to mention that so I am seeing online from some of the answers forums on Microsoft's pages that Windows 365 because the connection between Outlook and Teams, it's supposed to be done through the Outlook desktop app, and because Windows 365 is a virtualized setting, that it is known to sometimes have that issue. It seems that sometimes you can just kind of log out and log back in and sort of like like clear the cache and reset some things, and it should fix it for the most part. But it does seem to be a known quirk that pops up every now and then, and unfortunately, Phoebe, you got the quirk.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't seem that
Okay.
there's like any one solution to fixing it, though. I would imagine Microsoft's probably going to catch that up pretty quickly, though, because they are usually really. I mean, Windows 365 is their latest and greatest baby, so I'm sure there will be something soon for it.
Beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone, and thank you again for having us.